Ah, the holidays, a time where we should be having happy times with family and friends, but for many, including me, that's not the case, and the holidays can be kind of daunting. Society puts pressure on the holiday season to be this magical thing, but I really think this sets unrealistic expectations for everyone involved. And of course, many times those expectations aren't met, and that can result in some not so fun times. And add in the struggle of mental illness, and well, now you start to see a problem. So today, I want to take a few minutes to tell you guys how I survive the holiday season with a mental illness. And that mental illness, if you don't already know, is schizoaffective disorder, which means that I experience symptoms of schizophrenia such as delusions and hallucinations, but also symptoms of a mood disorder, such as bipolar or major depression. There's two types of the disorder, the bipolar type and the depressed type, and I fall into the bipolar category because I have manic episodes. Anyways, a lot of what you're going to hear in this video is a result of that schizoaffective perspective. That was very fun to say. Yeah, schizoaffective perspective, yeah. And as a result of my condition, I have to be extra careful around the holidays because many things can trigger my symptoms. But first things first, I make a game plan. I make a plan to cope ahead for all the major situations that could possibly happen at, say, a family gathering. That way, when one of those things happen, I already have a plan in place on how to cope, how to deal with it, and how to actually get through it. Because it's kind of hard to remember therapy skills when I'm about to have a panic or an anxiety attack. So if I have a cope ahead plan, well, my brain kind of already knows what to do in that situation. So listen to these tips, make your own cope ahead plan, and then you'll be prepared for the holidays too. Now we can finally get started on the main meat of the video. So the first thing I do is that I practice gratitude when things get negative. One of the key things that keeps me content with my life, even overall, is by practicing gratitude. However, during the holiday season, it's even more important. The holidays can cause me to see people I wouldn't normally see or want to see, or get me into situations that would make me uncomfortable. So being grateful for what I do have and the things that I like and enjoy helps me to create a healthier perspective. Like, sure, Aunt Janice is nagging at me to get a girlfriend and go back to school, but the two kitties in the living room are pretty nice to pet. So being grateful for those imaginary kittens really does help, even when Aunt Janice won't really be quiet. And if I continue to do that, being grateful for what I do have, well, the bad things suddenly seem farther and farther away. And honestly, I'm so continually surprised at how practicing gratitude gets me through the harder parts of my life. And the next thing is that I take a step away if I feel overwhelmed. I know this isn't always possible, but if it is possible, I definitely use it. It can be very overwhelming to be surrounded by a bunch of people or people that I didn't want to be around. And honestly, like that, with the pressure of the holidays and everything, it can be very panic-inducing. So if my anxiety or my panicking gets a little bit too high, I try to remove myself from the situation. One of the key ways I'll do this is that if the gathering or event is at another location, I'll make sure to bring my own car, just so I can leave if I need to. And if literally driving away from my problem isn't an option, then I'll at least take a step outside. And the thing is, where I live, it's very cold this time of year, so the brisk breeze blowing on my face will probably distract me from the reason I came outside in the first place. But I can also step away from things mentally, meaning that if I'm in a group of people and they're all talking, I can essentially take a step back and just start listening. And I've really noticed that, like, with the anxiety side of my disorder, because I do have anxiety as part of my schizoaffective disorder, is that even stepping away for just a moment, maybe like 2 or 3 minutes, actually does a great deal for my mental health in that moment. Because anxiety for me has this way of taking things that would normally be fine and then blowing them up and making me worry about them and making them so much bigger than they actually are. And doing that step away kind of puts things back into a more realistic perspective where my brain's not blowing them up to be this awful catastrophic thing. Perspective is everything. And if that doesn't work for me, then it's on to the next thing. I reach out to my support system if I need to. One thing I worked really hard on in 2019, which was kind of the year I started getting my crap together, was developing and maintaining and working on having a good support system. My support system can mean the difference between a good day and a bad day. And while the support system is not a substitute for therapy, having people in my life that know I have this condition, know how it affects me, really helps me sometimes to get a perspective that will save me, but also give me a place to vent and be understood and to be heard. And that is so, so valuable. Because one of the things I struggle with the most when things do get bad is isolation. Whatever's going on, no matter how bad it feels, I cannot isolate. Because if I isolate, everything will get so much worse. So I basically call someone if I need to talk to someone. Text works as well. Honestly, anything just to not be alone. And the thing is, at the same time, the person I'm talking to on the other end, well, chances are their holiday situation probably isn't going too great either, so we can actually end up helping each other. Symbiotic relationships, am I right? This next thing is I practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is all about the art of living in the moment. I don't worry about the future. I don't think about the past. It's just all about what's happening in that present moment. And when it comes to the holidays, conversations can really focus on the future, asking when is someone going to get married? When are they going to have kids? When are they going to go back to school? When are they going to finish that book? All these questions can be really anxiety inducing. Like honestly, if I had my way, all the conversations at holiday gatherings would be who has the best cookie recipe, and yes, we should all try them right now. Not about whenever Rebecca's getting a boyfriend and settling down. So in these situations, when the focus is on the future, I have to rein myself back in and anchor myself in the present, which means I think about only what's happening right then and there. Because if I start thinking about my own future, well, things can get very bad very quickly. Yeah, so the way I do it is like, for example, I see a cookie on the table, right? And I would look at the cookie, I would describe the cookie to myself. It looks warm, it looks steaming, it's probably gonna taste delicious. Then I participate in the moment by basically eating the cookie. And while I'm eating the cookie, I'd focus on how it tastes, how it smells, how it feels, how warm it is, and I just really focus on that instead of, oh, when am I gonna swallow? Or, oh, when am I gonna pick up the next cookie? And so part of that also is not judging anything when I'm doing that. Just have the cookie be there. I mean, you can judge if the cookie tastes good or not, but basically trying to be impartial to what's happening in life and just accepting things how they are and just choosing to live them. But it's a thing that takes time to practice. Mindfulness is not something that is learned in a day. I still practice it, and I started practicing it in 2019, and it's been 3 years. And so I still have to practice those skills all the time, but I highly recommend that if anyone is struggling with thinking too far ahead or worrying about the past, and at a family gathering where everything's just all over the place, focusing in the moment will really zero people in on something that they can actually do that will help them survive that season. And really what I found when mindfulness really started taking hold in my own life was that mindfulness to me was actually the secret to having a content and sometimes happy life. Like seriously, the big dream team of mental health for me right now is practicing gratitude and practicing mindfulness. Like the two of them just, And this last thing is actually something that is basically my self-care secret when it comes to stressful holiday situations. And the thing is, it's very hard for me when I'm in stressful situations with, say, stressful family members or stressful friends and whatnot, like all of that, it's really hard for me to think of myself because I'm trying to think about like the way I was raised. It was a lot of like, you know, people pleasing and stuff. So I was always thinking about others and what others would think of me and what I could do to basically please them. And so me thinking about myself is it's still a totally new thing in my brain. Like my brain is just so used to that mentality. And so the skill I'm going to talk about is something called SelfSoothe. The core aspect of SelfSoothe is that I engage one of my 5 senses in a very comforting and happy and satisfying way to the point where I'm basically soothed by it. So it's basically a way to soothe yourself by using your 5 senses. And that kind of might be a little bit vague, but I have some examples. The first sense that I usually attack when it comes to engaging for self-soothe is my sense of sight. So me personally, I'm really interested in photography. And so what I'll do when I need to soothe myself with my sense of sight is I'll look at pretty photos on the internet, usually like Instagram or something of that nature, maybe some Pinterest stuff. I would suggest not doing anything like Reels or TikToks or YouTube Shorts or YouTube videos in general because they also have sound to them, but scrolling through pictures and picking out things that do look beautiful to you really, I don't know, it really helps me to, I don't know, get out of my own head a little bit. And it's kind of like, hey, I like doing this. Hey, this is a good thing I'm doing for myself. And it really does help. The next one is engaging my sense of taste. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I have like the holiday season upon me, there's lots of baked goods, there's lots of cooking, there's lots of very fancy meats like turkey and chicken and whatnot. And so there's always something that I know will taste good. So if I'm really stressed out and I'm wanting to self-soothe and all I have is a bunch of food on the table, I'll just make sure to get extra helpings of the stuff I like more than everything else. And the next thing is that I self-soothe by using my sense of touch. And if you know a little bit about me on this channel, you'll know that I absolutely love stuffed bees and have a ton of them. There's actually one right here. That name is Madam Bee, and she is very cozy and very, very huggable. And so I'll bring her, or I'll bring another smaller bee or a cat bee. Like, I have so many stuffed bees and they're all super helpful, and I'll basically focus on what it feels like to hold them and touch them and how soft they are, and I'll really like anchor in on that, especially if I can give one a really big hug. Like, Madam B gives the best hugs, and if I'm like in a stressful situation, like say I'm at the mall and I'm being overwhelmed by all of the people and everything, and how, I don't know, society's pressures on Christmas just reminds me of how my own Christmases just don't really go all that great. And so that type of thing, like I'd grab B, I'd hug her, and then I'd feel a little bit better because she's soft and huggable, and it's just really engaging to me. And arguably this one is actually my favorite to do. Like, yes, I do like photos, that's a close second, but my favorite is probably hugging a stuffed bee. And this is another easy one. So my sense of hearing, I basically put in my headphones and turn on my favorite songs. I have one song that I've been listening to on repeat almost constantly for 5 years now. I will link it in the description box down below. It is called Bookbinder, and it's by this guy named Matt Lange, and I can literally listen to that song, and I have for like 15 hours straight. And so when I'm in a really stressful situation and I have my headphones, all I need to do is just step away, put the headphones in my ears, turn on Bookbinder, and my brain just runs on it and just calms me down. Like, I cannot express how much that song helps me. And if you do listen to it, let me know in the comment section down below what you think. Otherwise, if you listen to it and you think it's boring, well, you're not the first. Anyway, on to the next thing. And the last thing is the sense of smell, and the easiest way to do this is that I carry around essential oils in my purse with me. And when things get stressful, if the other stuff isn't working, or I don't feel like grabbing B or putting on headphones or scrolling through Pinterest or whatever, because I do alternate between what senses I soothe and which ones I don't, is I just take essential oils and I uncap it and I just go, just big whiff, absolutely just so much. And I usually use like lavender or peppermint because they're very strong smells. And I don't know what it is about lavender, but I just feel like it's kind of takes me away from the situation, and I get to be in like this field of lavender in the woods. And it's like, I just feel very like separated from everyone else. And it kind of gets me to escape, which is really nice and valuable. So lavender is really good for that. And different situations call for different senses. And one thing I've had to learn is that while yes, there are 5 possibilities, I might not be able to do all of those 5 things at any given time. And so I have to be flexible with it. And of course, this entire time I'm taking all my meds as directed, and I'm still going to therapy. And the thing is, these things that I listed, they're mostly centered around how I avoid crisis situations, like how I avoid situations that could cause me to have a mental health crisis. So like those gatherings and get-togethers and everything, that's all extremely stressful to me. And so a lot of my cope ahead plans deal with those extreme situations. But also around the holiday season, I have to deal with other things too. Like I have to deal with going to the mall or going shopping and seeing basically society's manifestation of what the holiday season should be, and knowing, no, mine will never measure up to that. And so then I go home and I feel really bad, and then I do some self-soothe and some mindfulness, and that helps me get out of it. But there's also another thing I like to do when things like this get tough, when I'm really down on myself, when I'm really feeling bad, and it's that I add positive experiences to my life. That is it for this video. I hope this gave you some good perspective, maybe some advice on how to get through your own holiday season. And I do want to ask you if you have any tips for the rest of us. Is there anything I missed? Is there anything you want to add? The comment section is down below, and I'll be waiting to hear from you. And of course, if you want to keep the conversation going, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at SchizoKitzo. I love talking to you guys about mental health. But other than that, I hope you guys have a great day. May your holiday season be everything you want it to be and more, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.